data centres are the heart of any digital infrastructure. With an increasing reliance on technology and the exponential growth of data, it's crucial for businesses to invest in robust data centres. However, as the demand skyrockets, companies are finding it increasingly challenging to hire the right people to move their projects forwards. If this sounds like you, stay with us for this episode of Staffing Solutions Simplified with me, Lauren. Today, I'm joined by Fraser Canobie, Recruitment Manager at NES Fircroft, and we're exploring the importance of data centre construction and discussing the expected growth of the industry over the next 5 years. We'll also delve into talent strategies, exploring how organisations can attract and retain top talent in this rapidly evolving field. So, hi Fraser, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much, thanks for having me.
So, we are chatting today about the importance of data centres. Please can you shed some light on why building state-of-the-art data centres is so important to businesses right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's definitely most important when you think about the 21st century that we're in. The amount of information that's communicated, stored. You think about some of these mega tech companies that are storing very private, secure information. It's of vital importance to have these buildings that can store these type of, this type of information, because if you don't, the security of all this thing becomes really frail, I suppose. And the amount of information, the usage, I suppose. You think about how fast internet is, the demand that everybody wants everything to run at lightning speed. I think it's just going to grow and grow and grow.
And to shed a little bit of light for people that are maybe new to the industry, like how big is this sector right now?
It's surprisingly big. I think if you didn't know, the industry would seem quite niche because it is quite specific. But if you think about how quickly this space is growing, internet speeds and all that sort of stuff, information that is being moved across the world, it's growing rapidly at a rate that people probably don't realise, which is why it's so busy, which is a good industry for us to be in.
Yeah, and I guess it crosses all sectors and industries as well, because everybody is so reliant on technology these days.
Yeah, of course, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's not just certain companies that are using these data centres. It's everybody.
So as the demand continues to grow, what do you see in the future for this sector?
It feels like it's growing at a rapid rate, and I foresee that to continue. And you can already see that, I guess, in the current industry. The amount of resources and employees required by these companies is exponential. There's a lot of sort of similar contractors all operating in this space, and they're all it's very competitive trying to find the really high quality candidates for these roles, and that's obviously causing a really high demand, which is increasing salaries, and there's lots of repercussions based on that.
Yeah, and what kind of trends should companies looking to build a data centre, what kind of trends should they be on the lookout for in the next few years?
The lack of expertise is really high. It's already high at the moment, and I think that will really, over the next 3, 4, 5 years, just due to the rate. So how many of these data centres are being built? Some of these projects are worth 500 million euros up to 2 billion euros, so substantially large projects that are running for 7, 8, 9 years. The staff shortages, I think, will be a real issue in this industry.
What kind of skills are the most in demand right now?
It's a good question. Definitely. So a lot of these companies that are building these data centers, obviously due to the what they're actually building, there's a lot of mechanical and electrical services involved. So engineers are probably almost certainly the most in demand. You need a lot of engineers on these projects, as well as project managers, quantity surveyors, all the highly technical staff.
So without giving away the trade secrets, where can we find these people from? Where are
question.
These unicorns living?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's a conversation that I have currently with some of my ongoing clients. Is perhaps we look outside of this specific niche sector and we look at similar, whether it's pharmaceutical companies, chemical companies. Yes, the buildings they're building are slightly different, but there is a lot of crossover. So maybe trying to look for staff that have transferable skills in those industries.
Yeah, what would you say those transferable skills are?
I suppose probably the most important thing is understanding the mechanical and the electrical side of things, especially. So if we were, for example, to try and poach an electrical engineer who is building an apartment, it's too different. It's like chalk and cheese, apples and oranges, so to speak. But if you can find people that they're dealing with projects which have a lot of electrical and mechanical involvement in the project, which pharmaceutical in particular would, I think that's where you would have some luck.
And do you think talent mobility kind of comes into this as a potential solution? Like, should companies be looking in other geographies?
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's already ongoing at the moment. So some of our clients are building all across Europe and the UK. And that's a real, I think, in my opinion, a real issue, is that, due to the staff shortages, people are having to be flown in and out on rosters, traveling all across the continent on really high wages and salaries, just due to the lack of staff. So if you can potentially find local staff within the country that you're building, that's obviously cost saving. And if you can try and target, like the pharmaceutical or the chemical companies locally, it's just one less headache, I think.
What kind of challenges then, kind of aside from obviously the logistics of bringing people in and out, what kind of challenges are these companies facing when they're having to look in other geographies?
Well, I mean, the obvious answer to that is obviously the issue with Brexit and UK now branching away from Europe. It does make it more difficult. So if you're a UK candidate, you need either sponsorship or a working visa provided by the company to I guess, allow you to work full-time and permanently within those countries, and vice versa. Obviously, same situation. If you're working on a project in the UK, if you find a really suitable candidate but they're European citizen, it's just another cost and a time factor as well, because some of these visas can take 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks.
Yeah. So what can companies do then? How can they put themselves in a better position to attract these candidates, but also how can they then retain them if it's such a competitive industry?
This is, I think, is a really important topic. Like I stated, in this particular industry, it's very competitive. People are being poached, headhunted, all from very similar companies. And I think, sometimes you don't need to overcomplicate these things. The most important thing is company culture. And I know it's a bit of a stereotype, but a happy employee is a good employee. And if you hire the right people, you value them, you listen to them, you actually give their thoughts like merit, and you listen to them and take in their opinions, that builds a stronger culture. It helps with staff retention. It helps with staff attraction as well. All of a sudden you get a better reputation and people want to come work for you, as opposed to having to try and convince them to come across.
Yeah. What would you say is like the top 3 things that candidates are looking for?
It's probably different for every person, obviously, but I think most importantly, they want to feel valued. They want to have flexibility. Ever since COVID happened, a lot of people, within reason, obviously some roles are site-based, there's no two ways around that, but just having the right work-life balance. We all want to work hard to be paid well to live, but we also want to have time with our families, and that's what we're all here for, I suppose.
I guess another thing that companies maybe could look at is how they are upskilling people. So I guess it's a benefit for the contractor, the candidate, but it's also a benefit for the company, because then they're building their own kind of workforce for the future. What kind of tips would you have for companies looking to build this sort of culture of continuous learning?
Probably the most important thing, I guess, is to really encourage the thought that we're looking to, you're looking to promote from within. Before you decide you need a project manager, you need a project engineer, is there anyone within the team who is capable of stepping into that role? A, that saves you money. B, it shows your staff that you're willing to reward hard work. But there also needs to be training and development in place within the business to upskill these staff members. And I think offering such things, albeit at a cost, you're going to end up better off at the end.
So let's take it back to technology. That's kind of the crux of everything we've talked about today. What kind of role do you think the rapidly advancing technologies we're seeing today is going to play in this industry's future? So, we're talking about kind of artificial intelligence and stuff like that.
It's a really interesting topic, I think. And it is, I think, a concern, in my opinion. Everyone's opinion is different, but it is a bit of a concern. I guess how more efficient it's becoming, how much better it's becoming. Where does it end? I think for companies to find the right situations where AI can be used to improve company efficiency, overall project efficiency, without having it replace a human being in a role. I think that's probably the concern is if certain roles were to be obsolete because of the introduction of AI.
So as we kind of start to wrap up then, what would your main takeaways be for companies listening to this podcast right now?
Main takeaway, I think, is just to focus on where do you see this industry going? Where do you see yourself and your company fitting in with that industry? It's rapidly growing, it's rapidly changing and moving. How can you adapt and remain relevant in this industry, which is constantly changing? I think staying on top of everything and looking within in terms of, are we is our staff retention high? If it isn't, why? How can we improve that? It's hard enough to find good people, let alone when you're having to replace people that you lose. So I think that's what I've noticed is probably the biggest issue in this industry at the moment.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
No, that's okay. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Staffing Solutions Simplified. We hope this discussion has provided valuable insights into the importance of data centre construction, the expected growth of the industry, and effective talent strategies. If you enjoyed this, check out our other episodes for more thought-provoking discussions and insights to help your business enhance its talent strategies. Staffing Solutions Simplified is brought to you by NES Fircroft, the world's leading engineering staffing provider. If you're looking for tailored staffing solutions, check out www.nesfircroft.com. Thanks so much for listening.